You should have done that before the stream.
Hello, we're back. Welcome to Indie Game Social Club, the book club with no books. And I say with great confidence, the sexiest indie game podcast on Twitch. I am today's... Why are you laughing? I am today's stream master and dreamer of the Red Grail. My name is Brian. With me today, I have the lovely, the beautiful Johan. Welcome back. Say hello, Johan.
Greetings.
Yes.
Hey.
And the lovely, the beautiful Ilker.
Hello.
Look at that, with slightly de-resed webcam because he doesn't want to pay for the trial, pass the trial.
Shut up. I said that in confidence.
Yes. So, Johan, it's been a while. We haven't seen you since our What the Golf discussion. What have you been up to?
Yeah.
What have you been
What
playing?
have I been up to?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, lately I've been playing Cultist Simulator, I guess. But before that, I guess I fell into sort of like a rabbit hole with Returnal.
You got your PS5 boy.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
one of the few PlayStation 5 exclusives that actually exists, and it's kind of it's an interesting game in many ways.
Tell us about it.
As you know, I'm a huge fan of like the whole roguelike genre and getting like beating myself senseless against challenging things. So.
Well, I mean, you're pretty humble, but weren't you at one point globally ranked with Hades on a Hades run at a certain point?
Not confirmed, but I'm up in the runnings if I had been like recording properly and stuff like that.
Yeah,
definitely.
not confirmed, but we are the greatest indie game podcast in the world. Fairly certain.
I mean, would have been a top 100 time maybe, but nothing. And that was months ago. But
yeah, nice. And
I'm not a contender in any way.
It looked like it was at least Returnal. I don't have a PS5 yet. I'm kind of waiting for a redesign because it's just too fucking big for me. The console's gigantic, right?
It's huge.
I mean, it's also maybe waiting for it to be available to
in general, right? Yeah, exactly. It looked like the best parts of like a Metroidvania and like beat your head against the wall, like one more run, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah. It's just kind of almost like it's some parts like Metroidvania, little parts bullet hell shooter kind of.
Oh no shit.
So there's a lot of like those elements as well. And
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting game. Like it's very good in parts and very very like I don't know, like a bit janky in other parts, in my opinion.
I hear that the checkpoints can be kind of unfair sometimes. You'll like put in a lot of time and then it won't.
And there's also like this kind of almost like samey kind of feel to it, where there's a lot of like grinding in the beginning to get somewhere, and the runs are kind of long, which is a bit off-putting.
I see.
There's a bunch of like with the mechanics, like a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
And this feels like, I guess my biggest gripe with it is that it doesn't really feel as intentional as some other roguelikes, like in the sense that you sort of like, you decide what kind of character you want to build, or you decide what kind of run you want to make. Here it's mostly like you stumble across things and you go with it, but there's like no like synergies you can sort of decide between and stuff like that, which I find a bit like, it gets a bit dull to be honest.
Well, how many hours in are you?
I'm not sure. Do I want to know?
Is it like typical Johan hours where like at least 100 hours?
Yeah, I mean, I actually gave up on it. Like I have taken a break from it, but I guess it's like 50 or 60 or something like that. Maybe.
Oh my God.
I also heard that taking a break is the best thing to do right now because there's a patch that just broke all the saves or something like that.
Oh shit. Well, that's great. Set you back, right?
there has been some news about Returnal. Past few weeks.
I mean, it looks promising. I'll definitely play it, but once I get my hands on a PS5, I think I like roguelikes more than I actually do. But it's a very specific. I guess I like survival roguelikes, if that makes sense. So like Subnautica, I just started playing, and I got it for free on Epic a while ago, and for me that's super addictive, right? Because there's the element of I just have to survive. I have to eat, but also like you have this main objective in mind. Like all I want to do is fix this radio tower, right?
Yeah.
And you go and you go and you go and you die and you're like, ah, shit. And you're like, okay, one more. I got to fix that radio tower. And then you take a detour. And on top of that, you're like managing your oxygen and stuff like that. Like that kind of stuff is really addictive to me, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's Returnal and Subnautica. Ilker, what have you been playing? What have you been up to?
Oh shit. Yeah, I played some Cultist Simulator. Other than that, I've been working a lot. These past few weeks have been really hectic. And the chance I had to play, I finished Bowser's Fury. I think we're gonna talk about that on the podcast next week. I want to save that. But yeah, Bowser's Fury.
Bowser's Fury.
I was like Balls of Fury. Bowser's.
Yeah, no.
Balls of Fury. That's
we're talking about balls.
Is that
Bowser's?
Bowser's. Excuse my pronunciation.
No worries. You just said it fast. I picked up on it. Very charming game.
Super charming. I loved every bit of that game. But yeah, I'll talk about it some more next week. And also played a couple of demos. No, I downloaded a couple of demos for Switch. World's End Club that released Friday.
What's that one?
I haven't played it yet. Yeah, I have nothing to say about it because I haven't played it yet. But I have the demo installed. And this game, yeah, it's a game. Yeah. I think it's the same. I don't know. I have no idea.
You just blind download demos.
Yeah, no, it's the same developer that did Danganronpa. If you heard those.
Oh, is it like an RPG?
That is it is a specific genre that I cannot recall the name of right now.
Yeah.
But like you have to find the murderer. Like you're trying to. It's a social.
Something
game.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I can't think of it either.
This game, yeah, I'm not sure what this game actually is, but like what genre is. It's just like the art style is the same. We'll see. We'll talk about it next week.
So kind of like almost like a visual novel investigation kind of.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Like Aviary Attorney-ish, maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe.
The Nonary Games or whatever it's
while
called.
we're on that really kind of confused, nebulous thought, let's talk about our monthly game.
let's do that instead.
Smooth intro. This is Cultist Simulator, our monthly book club game. Ilker, why don't you tell us about our game?
Okay, another opportunity for me to fuck this up.
Yes.
We have been playing a game called Cultist Simulator. It's developed by Weather Factory. It's also published by Humble Bundle. And the game was also ported by Pledges. I think they're called Pledges. Pledges. Pledges.
Kind of like Humble Bundle is a publisher, so they're funded through basically pay what you want, right? That's
but I think it was originally a Kickstarter project, right? I'm not sure, but I kind of have this feeling that there was some kind of like almost Kickstarter like thing in the beginning, because there was this there's a lot of sort of like references I think in the lore to that feels a bit like almost like people. Like real people that's been sort of included, but I'm really not
could
sure.
Could be actually. I'm trying to like skim through the Wikipedia here, but cannot see anything right now. Anyway, it's a single player card game. I would be so bold to actually call it. It's a new word that I learned from you, Brian. It's a solitaire.
Solitaire,
maybe?
yeah.
Solitaire-ish.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't like. It's described as a Lovecraftian, I don't know, atmospheric. How do you call it?
Yeah, the way you're stumbling now is exactly how I played through the first game.
I mean, this is kind of almost like, I guess, like a solitaire clicker game almost. Like it's got a lot of tendencies, like with like these kinds of like almost idle games where it's
a little bit,
feeding something in, like this kind of looping.
With that said,
I actually tried to describe this game to a friend. Like full disclosure, I played this game 2 hours. I think that's enough to form an opinion, but I could not like I cannot describe the game. Like I don't know what this game is or how to describe it to someone. Like
right. So, well, Johan, you played this on what system? PC?
On PC.
PC. How many hours would you say you put into it? The Johan amount.
I mean, way too much. I mean, I've actually played this game quite a bit. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm approaching like maybe I think it's like maybe 80, 60, 70, 80 hours.
Hot damn!
Wow.
Something. But I actually played this game. I actually played this game a little bit before as well, but I've forgotten most of it. But it's like I actually got a bit like I don't know. It was just I wanted to beat it. Like at least I wanted to see what would happen.
Yes.
But I cheated quite a bit and started like looking on YouTube streams and reading up on the lore and vicking my way through stuff.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing about the game, which was like there's so many things that are enticing about this game. Like it is. Yeah. I love Lovecraftian. I love the idea that you're crafting cards and there's some sort of narrative that you can string together. But also on the Steam page it says this game is designed to have no tutorial, and part of the experience of the game is to figure out how the game works, you know? And in my opinion, I think that was not helpful for me. I had to cheat. Like you said, I had to get in there because I didn't understand what the game was trying to tell me through no tutorial, you know? Because I don't think like it added to my experience of not knowing where to start and stuff like that, you know? But with that said, you have sunk in more hours than any of us. What is your best guess at what this game is about, or
what it's about? It's more like
what are you trying to achieve in the game?
Exactly. I mean, story-wise, it's basically a game about going from these sort of like ordinary mundane circumstances and sort of glimpsing the world beyond, which is the Mansus, this kind of thing that you see, like this dream world that's very Lovecraftian, like, you know, the true world behind the veil, basically.
Right.
And you seek to sort of acquire knowledge and power enough to ascend from the being that you are into approaching something that's like demigod, like some sort of demigod to start off with, but maybe even further.
Interesting.
So you start building up basically by the sort of I guess like you work to get resources, you dream to sort of start exploring like the other world, and then you start picking up fragments of lore and things that will teach you to do fun things like rituals and so on. And along the way, hence the name, you found a cult where you have sort of followers that you can use to do things and stuff like that. But,
so I got at least that far, and like you articulated it very well. Like in the beginning, you have one option, and it's like I forgot what that blue box is, but essentially it's like working or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have like work, and I think the work is a menial existence or something.
Yeah, the card literally says menial
employment.
And then you click and drag menial employment into work, and there's a timer that goes off, and once that timer is done, then you get money and health or something like that.
I have to say that took way too long for me to figure out that I had to drag that one card to that one little box to actually start the game.
And I mean, I actually like because the thing about like a lot of stuff is that like you're meant to sort of like play around and discover things, but I think that for me, like one of the biggest problems was the fact that like they don't really like the discovering things didn't feel explicit enough. Like you have this kind of thing and you don't even know if it's like what is this like a reaction or anything. Like there wasn't this kind of, so it doesn't really, like for me it didn't really feel like I was learning, like I was just stumbling along. And then I had to read up a lot of stuff, but that was no way connected to the game experience. That was just like if just by reading things in the game, I would still be completely clueless as to like most of the mechanics.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just really tedious way to sort of
definitely
explore, in my opinion.
And I think if the gameplay is that you're supposed to be experimenting, what I would have wanted to see is like a log of the things you've done. Like just see me like just show me my 10 last,
for sure.
Yeah, just show me my 10 last moves so I can actually figure out like what did I do, because like I cannot recall the name of the cards that I just combined to do something. That would have been super helpful. But like
there was something about that, like this kind of thing, like like there's like two, like if the purpose of the game is to sort of explore and like learn about the lore and get into the world, which I think it is, because it's absolutely fantastic. Like the the lore behind it and everything around is just amazing in my opinion. But if that's the point, then it's like they sort of built this experience where you sort of have to fight against both the interface, which is really complicated and convoluted. So you have this kind of thing of like cards everywhere that you don't really know what to do. Like everything, if you're going to read something about it, it's just this slanted text that you have to sort of squint at. And then on the other hand, you also have this kind of like tedious sort of mechanics in the sense that, like, for example, work. Like if you intend to continue amassing resources like that, you have to every 60 seconds drag that card into the same place. And that's basically those kinds of mechanics just keep building up. So towards the end, you have this thing where you spend most of your time just doing repeat tasks that have nothing to do with discovering like the true purpose of the world.
And see, so you understood that for me, I was like, why is this happening? Why is this keep doing? Why can sometimes I drag a card? Yeah, it was very difficult. Also, welcome I'm Spiel to the club. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Yes, I think to your point about like the menial tasks and like these countdown timers and stuff like that, like I don't see how any person going and playing this game as a developer intended. Like, even if you're really good at these types of games, I don't think you can find that loop there, right? And for me, it would have added to the experience to at least show the first 15 minutes or walk you through the first 15 minutes of the core game loop, right? If you knew what you were trying to do.
Some kind of place where you sort of just like amass like what you learn and stuff like that, because it was just hard like for me to sort of even connect pieces together. And I guess that's sort of like the point, but it becomes almost to me like this kind of like, it's a very like obtuse explanation to say that it's just like, it's supposed to be convoluted and hard to understand because it's occult. I mean, it works to an extent, but it's at a point it just feels like a lazy design to not create some kind of like and I guess like if a game is supposed to be focusing on experimenting like that, which I love that, but one of the other problems with this game is that every run is so freakishly long that you end up in this kind of territory where it's like, when I've spent like 30 hours trying to like build up some kind of like foundation for something, I'm not really that keen on experimenting to find out if this is going to be successful or not, because that just means I'm going to have to do all of those things all over again, and a lot of those things are in the beginning are just really, really tedious. Like it's the same thing, you have to start building up like the foundation before you can even start learning more about the game, and that sort of put me off a little bit. And
me and Ilker are like nodding yes, like totally 30 hours, but I've never had a run last more than 30 minutes. Totally.
I beat the game within like an hour, my second playthrough, but I had no idea how to what I did to achieve that. But I achieved a minor victory.
What kind of victory did you get?
Minor victory.
Did you get? Sorry?
It's a minor victory.
Right. So it actually said like,
victory. So there's like as far as the things I found, like you have the victories where you basically sort of like die, like you have the death basically. That's one ending.
That's happened.
Like different kinds of deaths.
Yeah.
I was sacrificed to another cult in the middle of one run.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then there's like, I think there's almost like anti-victories that are kind of weird. That's like something else. But then there's like the minor victories, which can be stuff like, you continue working at the place and do a career there, and you sort of abandon hope of ascension, basically.
Oh,
something like that. That was something like that. You're admired by your peers. You have a happy life, but after you die, nobody remembers you. Like, I'm fine with that. That is, for me, that's life.
Exactly. Crushed it.
Like, I don't care what happens.
And then you have the standard victories, which is basically like achieving that first part of ascension, which is becoming what's like in the game it's called a long. That's like the name of that kind of character, which is basically a human who has passed through a certain level and sort of acquired immortality or the power. And if you do that, then you get to restart the game as an apostle to yourself.
Interesting.
Like a follower to yourself. Yeah, because you have to help yourself. Yeah, you have to help yourself reach the next stage, and that will enable you to have some kind of like major victory, which I haven't been nowhere close to achieving.
Because that was actually one thing I really liked. Like, because I played the first. I guess the first run is always the
aspirant or something.
Aspirant, exactly, And my second playthrough was the detective, I think.
Wait, when they give you the three options after you've play your first time.
Yeah, and I took the one.
Is that supposed to be easy, medium, hard? That's what I got from
it. They have no connection to the difficulty.
Oh, it's just
different ways to play or different work that you have. Anyway, I thought it was super, super cool that when you started, like, there was a reference of my previous character, Yoda 420.
Exactly. So if you do the physician, like, then you get you then your if you died in the last round, then your like the patient you were working on was the person that died in the previous round. So
okay, that's cool. I like that. It's like a nod to your previous characters.
Nice. Yeah. What about what do you guys think of just overall your experience? Like, Johan, you're probably one of the only people I know that would play a game for like 60 hours and then say you hate it, and then also play a game for 60 hours and say you love it. You know what I mean? Like, you give a game a fair shot, that's for sure.
Yeah, I did.
Definitely.
I mean, I actually like it's almost like it's for me. It's this, like, there's moments of like brilliance in it. It's one of those games when I like retell stuff that's happened in the game too. I was like, I told a friend of mine this weekend about like a few things that happened in the game. He was like, "That sounds like so much fun. That game is amazing." I'm like, it's really not. It's like it's like glimpses of amazing potential hidden behind a lot of tediousness. It's a very, very, in my opinion, tedious game, which is like if it was a lot quicker and a lot more like, I don't know, everything that you didn't have to spend so much time on it and so much like repetitive stuff, I would have found it absolutely amazing. But that's just too like it's
because like when you described the game like 10 minutes ago, that sounds awesome. Like, it sounds like a great game, but then you actually sit down with the game and like none of this is what Johan just said.
Right.
Like, and you have to find these.
For me, there were certain glimpses that I got which felt almost like playing StarCraft or Warcraft 3, where it's like, you have to get gold in order to get gold.
Right.
Then you can build a building. If you build that building, then you can build the ship and stuff like that. Like, I knew that the ultimate goal was to recruit someone for my cult. Then it started to splinter off and branch off into like, oh, what type of cult do you have to have? I'm like, do I have to dream that? I talked to this lady. How do I get a recruit? And then like, when there are certain things you need to do to expand your cult, I'm like, I don't know where to get this resource from, right? Because they weren't really clear on like, you have to dream this to get that. And it just, for me, the resources weren't clear.
Yeah, because there are a few hints of like, oh, you can develop this skill if you dream on it, or you can develop, or you can like change it to something else. Like, sure, that's the hint. But like, as you said, like the resources for me, like they were still like, you open up the cards or like the actions, and you have all these icons at the bottom, like skull, snowflake, too, and it's like that doesn't make any sense. And I didn't know. I couldn't understand like how to figure these out, like, because these symbols, where are they? Like, I couldn't see them displayed on anywhere else, except in the like actions. I'm like, what cards are these trying to symbolize, or like like what am I supposed to do?
And there's one thing that said, oh, in order to unlock this, you need to put in your upgrade a lamp ability. And then I saw the lamp come up, but it wouldn't let me interact with it. I was like, and then once it was done, it just disappeared. I'm like, well, I don't know what to do.
It's just amazing because you have this, like you said, like, okay, so you have this, I don't know, something pops up and it has this aspect of, I don't know, like the moth, for example. And you would like, and you hold your mouse over it, and the description you get, like, okay, so you have 5 points in this. And the description is, I knew a man who captured moths in a bell jar. On nights like this, he would release them one by one to die in the candle.
Like, cool, did I win? Like,
And then you have like and then you have a sort of parenthesis, and moth is the wild and perilous principle of chaos and journeying. And it's like, I mean, it's great as sort of like a flavor text, but it
definitely,
I think it just needs a little bit more context, because what you need to know is basically that a follower with moth, you can use them to get rid of evidence, you can use them to do anything that has to do with sort of like deception and change, basically.
Like, you're absolutely
there's
right.
No way, there's no explanation.
That's a very good point, right? Because if we're playing a card-based game, like I liken it to, like, say, Magic the Gathering or something like that, right? Yeah. The flavor text is there, and it's awesome for world building. But still, the prominent thing is like, okay, take this card and it does this, right? And I think the developer was, I mean, I'm not afraid to say, it was so far up his own ass that is, like they put the flavor text first and the function like
that is on you, Ryan.
Hidden. You know, they hid the functionality. I mean, I say this because it's like it was a very frustrating experience for me, and I gave it 3 or 4 shots. I played it for like 3 hours, I think. You know,
I give it 2. I was frustrated as well. Like I liked a lot of things that the game was doing. The gameplay was not that. And yeah, like there are a few things that would have had like a proper tutorial. Like this, is just like what do I do with the resources? What do I do with cards? Or at least if I'm supposed to explore, give me a feed of the things that I'm doing. Or when I actually discover a card, like let me have a catalog of like recipes. Like when you've discovered a new combination, just like
absolutely.
So I can just like go in there and see the glossary and like see that
that would have done a lot, right? Because if it is about discovering things, like you got to know, like, oh, I forgot, like I know I need health. How did I get health again? And you can look back since you unlock that recipe. You can like redo it, right?
And I mean, it can be those kinds of description could be a bit vague if like it doesn't have to be like super explicit and be too focused on mechanics, but at least a little bit more to sort of work with, because I think that's what sort of there was just something about it that was like. And I also think that there could be a lot more just done in the way of just, working on the UI, like in the sense of trying to get like, to me, like especially towards the end, there was so much going on that like just
I saw that screenshot on your board, like there was. I got anxious just seeing all those cards. Like, what?
And it was at that point where you sort of like
my own board is like
really
5
hard
cards.
to even read about stuff because there's just so much going on that you don't really take in what's actually happening. And there's like every single time you dream about the Mansus, you get this kind of animation where it opens up and you get 3 cards, and everything is so repetitive that just the fantastic world that's behind it, and it really is amazing. Like there's a lot of like extremely great ideas behind it. It just gets lost in sort of this.
I can kind of see like the symbolism, like or of like or the simulation of stress, that everything gets out of hand, like it just gets chaotic because you're trying to struggle with, like you're having your work and you have your private life and you have like this cult going on and everything just starts falling apart. I can see like if that is what they're trying to go for, but as I said, like it just gets frustrating because like you can't really concentrate on anything that's going on and you're missing the good parts of the game.
Right. I mean, I wish I got to that.
Yeah, at this point, I would like to quote Creed from The Office when it says, like, sure, I've been in a cult. You make a lot more money leading one, but it's a lot more fun to be a follower. That's how I sort of feel about it. Like, it's just, nice. I would much rather be a follower in that cult than just, have someone else do all like the administration.
So for anyone kind of, I guess, jumping into this game for the first time, what would be your guys' advice or strategy for like just jumping in?
Wow.
Mine, first of all, like don't listen to the developer, watch a YouTube intro at least.
But maybe do it like a quick sort of just get a feel for it first. Because there's like, I guess in the intro you have this kind of kickstarting moment where it's just like you get introduced to a few elements and it gets this feel to it. But I would almost like maybe not watch a YouTube video, more like, don't be afraid to pause and sort of look up what something means or how something fits together, and try to find like a source that's not too heavy on the spoilers. Like you don't need to know exactly what something does, but more like, so I get influences. What are influences? Or, what can I do with my cult? Stuff like that. That I think would help immensely to sort of enjoy it. But
also, I guess a big game changer for me was not to be afraid to pause the game entirely and just read through every single card. Because for me, like I didn't realize the value of that. I just let the time tick and I felt so anxious. But like to really pause it, it kind of at least nudged me along forward a little bit to be able to control time like that.
Definitely. Yeah, as Johan said, like I would probably just play the aspirant first blindly and just get a feel of the game and then start looking up things in your own pace.
And I guess I guess that's a bit bad in the sense that like I suppose that's sort of like the opposite of what the developer intended. But for me, the game sort of that was the first moment the game sort of opened up for me, and I started enjoying it. Was when I actually because there was a few like core mechanics when it came to like working with the cult and stuff like that I didn't even understand, and I ran into sort of like when you've been playing 10 hours or something like that, and then suddenly fail. It's just like I didn't really get that feel of like, oh, let's do it again. That was super fun. It was more like, oh god, I gotta start over.
Yeah, that's a thing about these. Yeah, like I guess you can call it a run-based or a roguelite game, right?
Definitely, yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
but it feels more like playing hardcore mode in like Diablo 2 or something like that.
Oh my God.
You have a character that's like, level 99 or something. It's like that's part of the excitement, but also when you die, it doesn't really give you that sort of like, let's just go again. It's more like,
sure, but
install this game, never touch it again.
Sure, but like in Diablo 2, you at least know what your like end game is, or what
absolutely.
you're supposed to be aiming or like working towards. Because for me, it's still not clear. Like what is my end? Like what is the purpose that I'm trying to achieve by playing this game?
Well, okay.
What is the goal? Like, how do I win this? That's
right. I mean, I think ultimately it's establishing a cult, and the varying degrees will give you varying endings. But also, it's like, the developers trying to say like, you do get an ending if you don't establish a cult, and like you got menial existence, and you're like, that's fine with me.
Beat the game. I'm done.
But even then, it's like if you beat it and you get a kind of ending, it wasn't really satisfying. Like I got one ending once, and I was like, I don't know how I arrived here. I don't know why the game stopped, and that was really kind of frustrating for me.
That was actually my question for you, Yuan. You actually got like the a proper victory. Like, was it did it feel satisfying to actually beat the game?
No, not really, actually. Like I felt the build up was just kind of like there was at that point there was so much going on that like the major events sort of happening, like the leveling up of my this the temptation into this kind of like understanding,
right?
Like I was sort of one tick at a time, sort of developing into some kind of higher being before you finally sort of ascend. But that was just like this kind of flavor text on a card that I have to click on each loop to sort of read a little bit like. The writing was great, but it didn't really feel like this kind of it just didn't really feel like it was happening. It was just this kind of like and I guess to your point, Brian, that's sort of like the feel that both when things are going well and not, like it really didn't give the feeling of that. It's just sort of stuff just happens, and then suddenly like it's over, or
it's just not satisfying like a good roguelite should be. At least like feel progression, right? I mean, we spent like 20 minutes shitting on this game, but I want to like know what was great about it, because for me even I generally disliked it, but like there were some great qualities about this game. Anything stand out to you guys immediately?
For me, it was definitely the atmosphere, the music, the sound effects were also very satisfying. I think like the bump that when you actually land a card on the table, everything like that is really well done. I think the design of the game is like looks gorgeous. All the cards they look gorgeous, and the flavor text is, I think, really good.
Yeah. I agree.
It's just like the gameplay isn't fun for me. Like it wasn't doing it for me. That's my biggest knock against the game, but because everything else worked like in its favor for me.
I think the whole lore, like world building was definitely, but there's also like something in the gameplay that it feels like a very deep game, and a very like it's got a lot of like this almost like amazing sort of emergent moments where something like it's not scripted, it just happens, and it becomes a really cool story. Like I had some detective that was just like really close to discovering me, and I failed at my attempts to sort of get rid of the evidence. So I started trying like just desperate things, and there was this kind of thing where you can sort of just have a meeting with him. So I had a meeting with him, and I talked to him about the most like powerful lore that I had found so far, which was this kind of winter aspect kind of thing, which is just like madness and death and stuff like that. And he went mad.
No so shit.
Sort of like, and he was just mad for quite some time. Yeah. And then suddenly he turned into a rival. So he founded his own cult and spent the rest of the game sort of stealing my stuff and just doing expeditions.
That's fantastic.
Like that.
That's
a fantastic moment. That was just like something where it's just like, what the hell is happening? He was just like crazy, and then suddenly he founded his own cult and started just
Yeah, there were certain things that when they clicked, they felt pretty cool. Like I think I was going around town asking either some lady or a person about a very specific thing. And whenever I didn't realize until later that whenever I would ask about it, there'd be like a suspicion card or something that would pop up. And it's like, oh, that's kind of neat, because whenever you're openly talking about this taboo thing, people find you suspicious or they're watching you or something like that.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool, very thematic. And
exactly.
in terms of like the sound design, Ilker, I agree with you. It was so satisfying to plop a card down. The atmosphere that plays, the whispering and stuff like that was very moody for just like a couple of icons on your screen, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And so, like, with the art style, do you think the art style worked for this game, or do you think it could have went for a more like Magic the Gathering, fantastical, detailed drawing thing?
They could have, but I think this felt more original, in my opinion. I think it felt distinct to this game. I think it's gorgeous, the art style. It's
and the colors really
like
popped, you know.
Yeah,
it did. I guess like for me, from like a user experience kind of point of view, it's almost like the problem for me was that like it almost gets a bit too abstract, you know, like the cards sort of like you don't really get a feel for what it is, and also they have this kind of thing where they use colors for many different things. So you have this kind of where it's like yellow is usually like gets connected to sort of like the lantern aspect, but in another context it means something else. So like books, I think it's like Sanskrit or something like that. It's sort of connected to language. And when it comes to the people, like the color is connected to sort of their mood. Like it's got nothing to do with their aspect. So the red ones are actually the ones that are sort of, I don't know, like harsh and passionate, but it's got nothing to do with sort of like I don't know, like for me it just got this into this kind of game where, you know, like the whole Gestalt kind of thinking where you connect things together by how it looks got really messed up. You got like all these cards the same color and sort of the same look, but they've got nothing to do with each other. Because there's completely different that's connecting them together.
You definitely have a point there. I think like again, what the cards maybe are lacking like is an icon. Like just what type of card is this?
I think they could have taken a page from like say a trading card game like Magic or whatever and used iconography that was like if they didn't use color, because the color was fantastic and it was nice and contrasty, but if that color wasn't linked to a type of card, they kind of failed in that regard. But using an icon,
I mean, you're basically put into the place where it's like there's not even like rudimentary sorting functionality. You're basically supposed to structure the board yourself, and there's like a lot of new cards popping in, and you basically have at a glance absolutely no way of telling what something is. Like you have to learn exactly what the different cards are to even be able to sort them. I mean, that's just to me like there's a lot of work, and then, like just doing the thing that you talked about where you just pause and read through everything. You basically have to do that to be able to keep check, but then it becomes like almost a game of memorization. Like, you know, I need a tool.
Right.
God, I think I remember reading that I had a tool somewhere. It's like, is it this one? No, that's something else. Okay, this is.
And do
you know if the game has a like colorblind mode? Like because that would also be
well with the icons, the iconography when you hover over a card, I think that could help.
Yeah.
Right. So I just had this like aha moment right now. Do you think it is subtle brilliance in the game design that Ilker and I, of weak mind and will, kind of went mad?
Don't say
like
that.
You know, essentially kind of went mad trying to play this game, and you managed to like power through and ascended to greatness with your
I
your
didn't
playthrough.
go mad. I had a minor victory.
Yeah, well, I say mad with quotation marks. Like,
yeah, exactly. I think it was the other way around. Actually, Ilker stayed sane by just noping the fuck out.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
I don't feel like I've ascended. I gotta be honest with you. I don't feel ascended.
Yeah. I think, for me, it's like I see it, right? Like I see that, you know, it's, you know, you got to go through it, but I mean, that's also the appeal of indie games. Like sometimes a developer is not afraid to alienate themselves, right, by trying to prove a point, you know.
Yeah. But I think for me, to me, it would actually be like I almost feel like it got the potential of being like a great game. It's just like, you know, it needs, for me, it would have needed to sort of like shorten down the loop into something that doesn't feel as tedious. Reduce put a little bit of some kind of automation in it, so you don't have to do the same things all over again, and maybe reduce like the clutter and just sheer complexity by sort of, I don't know, like hiding away the resources as something other than cards. Bundling things together in somewhere where you can, you know, these are your tools and you can browse them or something like that. some way of just navigating like the sheer amount of material that you have.
Or
then it would have been like, for me, something that I would have been, I think I would happily have spent a lot more time just exploring the different like the lore in itself, because that was
for me, like even like doing one loop from start to finish that was like relatively short, that maybe like was part of the story, which is like you go through your menial life and it's so linear, right? It's not open-ended at all, but the first run that you do is very linear and it teaches you and it holds your hand, and then you like die and it gives you an ending, and then it opens up you to your next mode where again, it could like have story elements from your first run into this next life or whatever. I think that could have benefited and helped. Like honestly, I think
the world record speed run for this game is sort of like an hour and a half or something like that.
Holy shit.
I can't remember exactly, which is for a roguelike incredible. It's just so fucking long. Like it's like most games, like you just find ways to sort of power through it, but like the optimally sort of like just rushing through something ends up it being like an hour and a half. It just that's
a lot. It's a lot to ask for the game.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So, who do you guys think this game is for? We talked about how like it's just kind of all over the place, and it can be frustrating even for someone that likes games like this. Like for me, it's like if you like this type of game, you might also like. I want to say
if someone is like patient and interested in like the occult, like that kind of mythology, then I think that you might enjoy it. But it's not almost like a specific kind of game, because the game in itself isn't like mechanics wise, it doesn't feel like to me like that great of a game. It's more like you have to be interested in sort of the world behind it and discovering things in that way for it to be interesting.
I think so too. I think if you enjoy the theme, that is like one entry point for you.
I think that's probably the biggest draw, right? Like because if you like real-time strategy games, like engine builders, like StarCraft and stuff, there's elements of that in there, but not the same satisfying feeling, right? Yeah. But it's definitely if you like Lovecraftian stuff and you do have the patience, I think this is definitely for you. Definitely.
Yeah.
After playing this game, who would you recommend it to anybody?
No. Sorry.
It's almost like I'm in the situation where it's like when I talk about it, it feels like I'm like everyone is just like, that sounds immensely fun, and I have to like almost like unrecommend it. Right. You could give it a try, but it's
but maybe buy it on a sale and like because you need to invest some time into it, I guess. To actually.
That's accurate. Yeah, I would say the same thing, which is like a game that I like to talk about, but wouldn't want to play, nor would I recommend it. Like, for simply the fact of telling a story, like you said, the emergent gameplay in there, where it's like, there's things that can happen like this, but that's not the game. Like, it's like 1% of the game. The rest of it is like scratching your head and banging it against the wall.
That's also why I'm very optimistic now for like the next game that's coming up. That's based in the same universe.
No way.
Same kind of lore and everything. So they're doing a game right now that's called the Book of Hours. That's basically where you basically like everything we know. All I know about it so far is that you play a librarian in sort of this kind of occult library. So it's basically the same kind of thing, but it's supposed to be I can't even remember the exact words, but a lot more relaxed was the design approach to it. It was supposed to be like a casual version of Cultist Simulator. Sort of.
I mean, I think the theme it sounds good and it sounds spot on. Like, but it's up to the gameplay to actually like be a fun game as well.
Yeah. Right. So it's also going to be card based.
I don't mind that. Like that's like I think card based games are fun and like maybe like if you enjoy card games, that is also like sure that's an easy recommendation. But like if you like I don't know if you play a lot of solitaire games and you want to try something different. Maybe
but there was something about this as well, like the combination of it being like card based with the whole like ticker approach as well. That's just sort of created this. I don't know. Like it's just a bit problematic for me because there's so much going on with the cards, and then you also have to keep track of all these weird timers.
Yeah.
And like this drove me insane towards the end. That they have these kind of almost like hidden timers. So you
Oh,
have this
interesting.
kind of process where you do something. It's like a 30-second countdown.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the countdown, it's another 10-second countdown.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
It's a
didn't
10-second
understand that
countdown
at
again,
all.
and then it's done.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
just
Like
messed
I never really
everything up for
understood.
me when
I never really understood why those like kept popping up. Like, did I do something, or is that is that just RNG? Like,
Yeah. Johan,
and they could just solve it. Yeah, sorry.
60 hours in, are there what is one thing that stands out that you still don't understand?
All of it.
I think that I think I've sort of read my way to understand most of the things. What I don't understand is how I was supposed to figure that out. Like, especially when it comes to like the end game stuff and stuff like that, like the rituals and everything like that. Now I understand what to do with it, but I don't understand like what was the point where I was supposed to discover this and I missed it. Because you sort of just end up with amassing like a lot of different books and ingredients and rites and stuff. And I was like, was there like a point where we started talking about like, you know, like doing the first ritual or anything like that? But I don't think so. It's just like, so there's a lot of like really big mechanics that's just, I don't know, like you're supposed to discover them, but they're so like obscure that it's just
definitely
like the definition of occult stuff.
Because I'm on my second playthrough, I started finding the resources to make at least start a ritual, but I still needed like 2 or 3 other things. But yeah, like so like there was no point where it just popped up and like, oh, okay, I guess it's starting to get time to make a ritual, but do I even have a cult, or like I don't know still like what is happening? I was like, I was going to the auction house and buying books. Like, can I maybe I can figure out a way to use these books in some way. And I was just like collecting books from the auction house. But,
yeah, there was this moment where I like found a text and I like tried dreaming about it and I tried to examine it, but it wouldn't let me read it because it was in another language. And then there was a very specific thing I had to do to get it, but I didn't know how to get the other elements to like translate the text, and that was such a pain point for me.
So when you learn a language, basically what you have to do is sort of you have to find another book to read, and then you learn that language. But every time you want to read a book in that language, you have to first study the language and then add the book to translate it. And then you get a translated copy that doesn't say that it's translated. It's just, it is. But then you can study that to sort of read it. And that's something you have to repeat for every single like book in another language. So it's always like a 3-step process to actually read it.
Yeah, I mean,
it just feels to me like needlessly convoluted. Like it's just
for me. So I guess that's a perfect transition for like now's the time when we not rate this game, but basically come up with a custom rating system, and it's not based on whether it's good or not necessarily, but it's like, hey, this developer had a very specific vision for this game. How well did they execute on that vision? So step 1 is, what is our rating system for this game, judging it on its own merits?
I leave that to you guys.
Cultists, like 1 to 40 cultists. 40 cultists
1
means,
to 40 cultists.
Yeah, 40 cultists means that they have achieved what they were out to achieve, and 1 cultist means not even close. So I'll start.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and say, like, so if the developer's intention was to, it's literally called Cultist Simulator, right? And it is simulating either you are a cultist or like trying to recruit cultists, and kind of simulating the fact that all the things that come along with it, like menial existence and choosing to go down this path of like the peering beyond the veil and all that kind of stuff, and not holding your hand while doing it. I think I would give it like 40 cultists. I think part of the game design held it back in us being able to experience the full vision. But ultimately speaking, I think like with me discovering like, holy shit, I went mad. And that's kind of Lovecraftian, right? Like I went mad trying to fucking figure out how this game works. But the snippets that I did get there were like bits and pieces of brilliance, you know? So that's mine, 40 cultists.
That's a really good point.
That's all of the cultists.
Oh wait, no, so 35 cultists.
Cult.
Sorry, 35 cultists. instead of 35 out of 40
That's a really
cultists.
good point about the game. The name of the game, like it isn't cult simulator. Like you're not supposed to like manage a cult. It's like you're a cultist, and as you said, like what they do is they definitely visualize the menial existence well, I think. But as we've been saying for an hour now, like the gameplay is just like it is such a roadblock for this game to actually enjoy the game and like everything that is in the like around the game.
No, actually, what's great is that what you can boil down what you just said into like everything about the game is great except for the game, which I completely agree with.
Like it's I wish there was just like a few things there to help me understand the game without having to like go on a Reddit forum or having to search it on YouTube. Like, because I'm gonna do that anyway. Just give me give me that in the game instead. And like 35 cultists sounds decent. I mean, if their vision was to actually make a complicated game where like with no hand holding, then yeah, sure, like they achieved that.
Right.
Full 40 cultists, but I wish it wasn't so.
Right. Johan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mix. Like, I think it's like this game of like 20, like it's 20 fantastic, exalted, great disciples that do everything right, and there's 20 really, really inept. Like, you know, the people who just keeps messing everything up in the cult. Like, they're just, talking about it.
Talking openly about it. And
sacrificing the wrong animals. I don't know, like, trying to buy capes at IKEA or something like that. No, it's just,
that's a good movie plot. Like, I would definitely watch that series.
It's not even like
shitty cultist.
The Office, but the cultist instead.
It's not that it's not even like I actually think that there's like it's almost like a really good game as well, Hidden Man. It's just that it needs to like it's this kind of thing like with a lot of like quality of life improvements, like just simplifying stuff, and it would have been like really, really good.
Right.
But it's not just quality of life improvements. There's something in the whole like kind of loop that's just a bit too tedious. But there's it would have gotten for me, like it would have gotten so much further just by having those kind of simplifying a few things, making a few things easier. So I think that's what holds it back for me. Like I think there's something there that it really succeeds at, but it's, as you said, like it's held back by those like tedious. Tedious aspects of it. That's just like it's too much for me. Like,
how many cultists would you give this?
So it's 40, but it's 20 of them suck and 20 of them are.
Great. That's great. That's fantastic. I mean, there's something to be said. I don't know if this is this developer's first game, but if it was at least their first attempt at this type of game, I think that it shows a lot of promise. And like I compare it to a game like, say, Limbo. Right, which was a fantastic game for its time, but it definitely shows its age now. And you compare Limbo with a very similar game that it followed up, which was Inside. Inside is a damn near perfect game for what it is, and it's like you can tell they learned a lot from the years since the two games. And I'm hoping that we see something like this, which is like, I'm sure he got a shit ton of community feedback, and he will address it in the next game, because if it's in the same universe. I'm all in for the universe. I love it.
I mean, it looked like a pretty like decent sized team that worked on it, and they also got nominated by BAFTA Awards, I think, for as like, best newcomer. So like,
which is pretty insane, right? Because it's very niche. It does not have mass appeal at all. This game,
No, it does not.
Yeah. So. I mean, I guess that does it for now for the discussion of Cultist Simulator. Thank you for anyone watching. But I'm going to go ahead and transition us real quick, and we can kind of quickly discuss while the three of us are in this room next month's possible theme. This is where we talk about, since we're here, while we're here. So again, this is Indie Game Social Club. It's a book club with no books, with indie games instead of books. We have a monthly discussion based on a themed game. Last month's theme was like anything, and then this game won. The month before that was it sports, and what the golf won, I think?
No, that was
Oh, Rookie.
Rookie,
Folklore. Folklore.
Folklore, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then Rookie 1, Scandinavian Folklore. So what do you guys think was the first thing that comes to mind that we should probably put into the poll for next month? Next month's game. I was thinking, did we do travel yet?
I think we did travel.
Did we
Yeah,
do travel?
I remember. I remember doing that.
But I don't remember what game we played. Wasn't it Kentucky?
Oh, you're right. Kentucky Route Zero.
Yeah, it was Kentucky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the November game. Yeah.
I'm thinking there's been a slew of great survival crafting games. So I want to say like survival is pretty broad. I like that.
Absolutely.
Also, there's been just a rush, and I don't know if we want to lean into it or not. Like a rush of Cyberpunk. Did we address Cyberpunk yet?
We have, yeah.
That was the bartender game. Damn.
Yeah,
exactly. We did a lot, huh? Shit.
But I don't know. Maybe keep it open again, or maybe we shouldn't spoil. We shouldn't spoil ourselves with an open theme. But maybe I don't know. Keep it broad.
Maybe we can do like a 2-tier sort of selection process, like toss in a bunch of themes and vote on it, and then toss in a bunch of games.
Oh, nice. No. All right. One theme I have is I like the idea.
The 3-tier system where it's like we vote on what we're supposed to vote on, and then we vote on what.
It already takes too long to decide on a game. Let's not add any more filters.
Well, how about so I like survival and also like puzzles. I don't think we've done hard puzzles yet, like straight up puzzle genre.
Pretty good.
So
space?
Puzzle?
Yeah, puzzle. I mean, I think, a lot of walking sims, modern walking sims can have that, right?
Absolutely. We haven't done space, I think.
Space is good. Oh man, there's some really good space games. I've played a lot of good space games. There's a run-based space game that came out fairly recently. I'm kind of into the idea of space that's very open. Right? Yeah. That covers a lot.
That's like the definition of it almost.
Yeah. That's very true.
Okay, let's say space then. I think that sounds great.
I'm all in.
Just
I'm all in.
Space. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right.
Can be anything.
Yes. Let me go ahead.
Between 2 points of...
Space between my ears. Yeah. And that does it until next time. You guys say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.